Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Are you ready?
For live.
Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Are you ready?
This live
Are you
talk.
ready?
Live
Are you
talk.
ready?
Yes, sir.
Are you ready?
Live talk.
For the word of the day, the knowledge and the wisdom will increase your faith. Are you ready for live talk?
Yeah.
Because it's about time to set it on. Are you ready?
Let's go.
For the word of the day, the knowledge and the wisdom will increase your faith. Are you ready for live talk?
Yeah.
Because it's about time to set it off.
Live talk. This live talk. Live talk. Living in vital energy. The universal language spirituality. Living in vital energy. The universal language spirituality. We're going all the way live with it. With live talk, increase your mentality, put away carnality, and increase your spirituality. Let's go. Live talk.
Are you ready?
This live talk.
Are you ready?
Live talk.
Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Are you ready?
Live talk.
For the word of the day, the knowledge and the wisdom will increase your faith. Are you ready for live talk? Because it's about time to set it off. Welcome to Live Talk. I am your host, Arthur Jeremiah, alongside my co-host, the minister, Samuel.
Welcome again to Live Talk, family.
All right. Well, we got really a hot show today. Of course, we have a special guest that's coming on today. But even outside of that, this whole show today is going to be a hot show.
Yes.
Are you set? Are you ready for it?
Yeah, this definitely should be a live talk. This will be a live conversation.
All right, indeed. So before we get there, we're going to give you a rundown of the show. First, we'll have the minister word of the day. Right after that, we'll go to a short commercial break. That's when we'll bring our special guests in. And the topic of the day, we'll be talking with Brother Willard Holmes. We'll be talking with him today. And we'll be digging a little bit into our community and talking about some things that are some very important things that are going on today in our community. So we want to touch on that. Right after that, we'll go to a commercial break and we'll come back with any good news of the day, which I'm thinking with the topic that we're talking about today, it may take us right through that portion of the program, and it might kind of close us out right there. And that's where I know you guys probably going to want to chime in that. So at this point, with no further ado, Minister, what is the word of the day?
Okay. The word of today is resilient.
Minister, before we go there.
Yes, sir.
We got to do a disclaimer.
Oh, yes. We got to do our disclaimer.
Yeah.
Let's get everything in decent and in order.
Yes, sir. Indeed. We always want to start off like this here. Live Talk is brought to you by TBS Goodwill and Builders of the Highway Foundation. We ask that you verify or contact your personal or business consultant about any information that is shared on this show. Laws are different from state to state, and local laws change often. Do not lean solely on the information that you hear on this show. However, there are professionals on this show that can consult with you, but through the right channels. If you have questions or concerns, you can always email us at livetalkorl@gmail.com. All right, brother, we handled business there. So let's get back to the word of the day.
Thank you very much. Yes. Start things off right. Yes. Again, the word of today is resilient. And resilient means able to withstand or recover quickly from difficult conditions, being or difficult to keep down. Now, psychologically, resilience is the ability to cope mentally or emotionally with a crisis. Resilient is being able to be happy, successful, and etc., even after something difficult or bad has happened. Now, I did a little etymological research on resilient, and it comes from the Latin word resiliens, which is to jump back or recoil. And it's from two words. The prefix is re plus the suffix is salire, S-A-L-I-R-E, salire, which is to leap. And then ironically, and this one is going to be unique for my guest because this is going to be on wordplay on the etymology of resilience. It says, see more at Sally. We're going to talk about that a little bit when we get into resilience a little later on. But which is sort of like an imaginative or witty saying to be able to burst forth. But the word of today is resilient.
Resilient. That's a powerful word considering what we're going to be dealing with today. Because you said something, you said recovering readily from adversity. I don't know if you had that part, but it also said depression or the likes. And you talked more about the likes as well. When we talk about being resilient, we have to mention the fact that every prophet in the Bible, every Black leader, when it comes to that, and every person of influence went through some type of depression, because we talk about depression as being a part of resilience, right?
Yes.
And because they had to recover from that in order to be, great as they were, And when you look up the word depression, depression is a condition of general emotions, dejections, and withdrawal, sadness, greater and more profound of prolonged, that is, warranted by any objective reason. So it's like when we can have we can go through a form of resilience even when we're dealing with our children.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying? Because even if a child, let's think about your child. They have their own mindset, right? They want to do what they want to do, right? And then as us as being parents, we're always trying to guide them the right way. And sometimes it can bring a form of depression on us when we feel like they're going down the wrong path.
Yes.
And when you think about it from that when you think about it from there, you have to believe that everyone goes through a form of depression. Everyone has to have a form of resilience when it comes to that, because we can't stay in the same funk forever.
Right.
And just to that point of resilience and saying that everyone goes through it, even from economics. And as a people, we have been through it for over 400 years. We have been through it, and we have been resilient when it came to that. And we're still going through it today. So, that word resilience is a very powerful word, and it's going to resonate with our guests today when we bring them on.
Because whatever we go through difficulty, especially depression and hard in life, you need resilience to be able to come back. Right. To be able to come back strong, you have to be resilient. Right.
Well, my brother, I thank you for that word today. Hopefully we'll get right into that, and we'll talk more about that as we bring our guests on today. And there's going to be other information that we talk about today, that resilience is going to be very important when it comes to us talking about things that are going on in our community
right now.
So we'll be right back. We'll be right back with our special guest. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, shalom and blessing, y'all. This is Author Jeremiah Israel coming to you live. Listen, I'm so excited because my ebook version of The Spiritual Significance of a Name is now available. You can go to my website today at www.jeremiahisrael.com. Now, this ebook is pretty much available anywhere and everywhere that ebook is sold. I'm so excited about that because, ebooks are sold internationally, but I would like for you to go to my website at www.jeremiahisrael.com, pick up your copy, or you can go ahead and download the ebook version of it. Whether you're on a plane, whether you're traveling, whatever you're doing, pick up this copy. It's only $4.99. It's not going to break your pockets and not going, break the bank. So go ahead and get the copy of this ebook now, today, $4.99. Go to YeremiahYesua.com and truly become blessed, because it will truly put you on a path to defining your true purpose. Until next time, peace and prosperity. All right, welcome back to Live Talk. As mentioned before, we have dear brother Willard here live in the studio, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Brother Samuel.
Okay, yes, sir. All right. I'm going to just say it is my pleasure to introduce our guest today, and something that most who know him wouldn't know is that he quit school in the 9th grade to go to work and had to return to school later as an adult to graduate high school, then later to go on to college at both Valencia and Seminole State. Just a little background. During his professional career, he worked for years with the city of Orlando as a facilities management supervisor, as well as an administrative engineer for the Kwame Building Group in both Orlando and Shreveport, Louisiana. He later attended the University of Central Florida to get specialized electrical licensing. And then he became a master electrician and a licensed contractor. He then founded True Power Electrical Services, which is where he worked on and completed numerous projects here in our local community, just such as the Central Florida Expressway Authority, Guardian Care Nursing Facility, the Florida Turnpike, and the Amway Center, just to name a few. Our guest is also a United States Army veteran. He's a vocational technical educator, a lecturer, and a historian, as well as an instructor for over 20 years. He has since retired and is joining us to share some of his wisdom and knowledge. So please join me as we welcome my friend and our guest.
All right. Thank you very much. I would like to begin by thanking you for the invite. Okay. It is more than an opportunity to be in a setting like this to share life's journeys, experiences with others, and hopefully I'm able to impart something that will encourage those out there that may be having those challenges at the current time, And I speak like that because for me, life has truly been a journey. I'd first like to make a brief statement. The information I'm about to share is not a jovial attempt to impose my personal life experiences and experiences. Okay. The intent is to share real factual life lessons with the hope that some of the information shared might help others listening and glean encouragement. Okay. A brief history of my life from birth to 8 years old. I've been a resident of Florida, particularly Central Florida. I was practically born and up to 8 years old, lived in Apopka, Florida.
Okay.
And at the age of 2, my mother passed. And it was myself and my sister, and she was a year younger. And law enforcement, basically, the system told my dad that he would either have to find someone to adopt us or we would be put into a facility. Okay. Mm-hmm. So my dad was able to find 2 different families. One took my sister and one took myself. So around 7.5, going to 8 years old, I went to live with my father, and he died when I was 11. Okay, he passed when I was 11.
Wow.
And so I'm looking around, and this is a big world, 8 years old. And I'm wondering, how's this going to work? Okay. So a voice came to me distinctly and said to me, now you can grab yourself by the bootstraps, or you can sit down and have a pity party. Grab yourself by the bootstraps, and I'll guide you through this life. Okay, I'll be there for you. I listened to that encouragement. I listened to that voice. And so that then allowed me to be able to take a closer look at life in itself. But it was very void still. I was missing out on the structure of family, having a mother and a father, or just father or mother. And I'm emphasizing that because there may be someone listening to the show that is facing that situation, has faced it, and trying to get their bearings on how to make their way through life.
Navigate life.
Right, that's the term I was looking for. Navigate through life. And so part of that youth after my father passed, I had my great uncle invite me to come live with him in Tampa, Florida. And so at that time I had reached about 13, turning 14. And he had a janitorial service, and he said to me, and I don't think he meant bad, but he said, you can quit school and come work with me, help me. And I did that. But see, I didn't know that the Social Security that had gotten started, when I quit school, they cut off the Social Security.
Yeah.
Okay. So now prior to that, and this is not to be demeaning to my family and my loved ones and the ancestors. Prior to that, I had bounced back and forth from Apopka to Kissimmee, Florida. And I was under the impression that people that was inviting me to come live with them, that they cared and they loved me. I'm not saying they didn't have any care or love, but once that check got cut off, the reality set in.
Yeah.
Now, nobody's saying, come stay with me.
Right.
So again,
Now, was that family?
that some was family, and then some were like the neighborhood. In those days, people, the community, that people were more helpful.
Yeah.
If they saw you and it looked like you were hungry, they would ask you, you hungry, little fella?
Right.
Come on, let me give you something to eat.
Oh,
Yeah.
Where your mom?
Right. And so to this day, even early on, I never forgot in my prayer to thank everyone that gave me a drink of water, gave me a piece of bread to eat, or a place to sleep.
Right.
Okay. So still, I'm dealing with this scenario to where I'm dealing with missing out on the family setting, the family structure of being there as a unit.
Yeah.
I would find myself playing with other kids, and one of the parents, come in the house, it's time to eat supper. Tell your friend he's got to go home. Okay. And so it was very interesting, very challenging. But at the time, it was not clear, as I later learned it to be. Everything that I was being challenged with was a preparation for what I was to achieve in the future. Okay. So again, most interesting is first strapping those boots up. And when it seemed like there is no way, never forget, there's always a way. There's always a way. It's already in place. The question is, what was I willing to listen to and not do? But I would like to say this. It's not like I never did anything wrong, okay? but I was never incarcerated. Because I was constantly warned, ain't nobody got no money. You go to jail, you're going to sit there, you're going to rot. And I would oftentimes hear, you're not going to amount to anything, you're not. And then the boss came back to me and said, life is a journey, and it's like this. You walk up on a river and the water is very turbulent, okay? But you have to cross the river. And along the bank of the river are stones, okay? And each time you hear these negative things said, you reach down and you grab your stone and you throw it in the same spot in that river. And so I'm trying to contemplate, okay, what is this about? Not being able to grasp, if you continue to throw those stones in the same place in that river, guess what happens? You build a bridge.
Bridge out.
It's a bridge to get across the river. And so constantly and consistently, I'm learning that the voice that told me, grab yourself by the bootstraps and I'll show you and help you through this life. And so, after that point, 14, 15, 16, 17, turning 18, I decided to go into the United States Army. And I didn't know what I was getting into, okay? But I'm not discouraging those that may see the military as a help for them to get where they need to go. And so I had my experience in the United States military, and I was discharged with an honorable discharge, and I performed well. It was not because I couldn't perform. It was basically, there were other things that I was being taught that I needed to, where I needed to be, and how I was to accomplish the things I was given to accomplish.
Let me ask you something, because I know you mentioned your mother passing that too.
Correct.
You kind of been from here to there, and then kind of living with your dad until he passed when you were around 11. As far as you, coming up, as far as the school, like, talk a little bit about like how that was transitioning from school to school. And then, because I know you're talking about the military, and then what gave you that idea of why you felt like the military was that option for you at that time?
Yeah, in school, I never really played organized sports, but in Apopka Middle School, I was awarded most athletic student the time attending there. And athletics was always a part of my, I loved athletics. And so, again, hearing that persistent comment, go in the army, it'll make you a man. Okay. That go in the military, it'll make you a man. And so I used to hear that a lot. And you may hear it sometime in modern society. Go in the military, it'll make you a man. And so looking around, I say, you know what? I'm going to go in the military. Okay. And then when I got in the military, it was like, okay, this is an experience. Okay. I got an honorable discharge, came back out. And at that time, I was turning 19. Living in Apopka, Apopka in those days were known as the foliage capital of the nation. Okay. And I had started working in a nursery, and Mulford by name, Mulford Nursery. And I couldn't believe it, because on those hot days, smoking hot, I'm toting plants. And as soon as I would get a little tired, I already knew, because I watched it happen to others. You straighten up, to stretch your back, you go clock out. So I looked to the sky and I said, it's got to be a better way than this right here. It's got to be a better way than this.
So coming out of the military, did you think the military kind of prepared you for, life moving forward? Or then you're still kind of finding your way?
Not really.
What you're saying, you're still trying to search.
I'm still searching, because actually, to be specific, I was more traumatized, simply because drill sergeants don't talk to the new enlistments now like they did back then. To hear people say the only reason why you're here is because your mama don't love you, your daddy don't love you. And I'm still trying to go through.
Like an orphan home.
Yeah. And so that right there in itself was the most negative impact upon me, rehashing something I'm already trying to deal with.
Right.
But I later understood it's the process of gaining control of your mind, to where if I tell you to charge, you charge. If I tell you to sit, you sit. Okay. That's what I learned from that. But while I was going through it, I didn't see it like that. And at the time, President Nixon was in office. And so we had the Watergate and all this going on. And so it was still confusing. When it actually started to come together, when I got out of the military and came back to Apopka, worked a little while at Mufford's, and I think I got terminated. I'm not ashamed to say it. I got fired, because, with the water breaks and I was, I just felt like I was a slave. I felt like I was a slave all over again. And so at the end of the day, with those conditions, okay. And so I started working at Plymouth Juice Plant up 441, okay, in Plymouth. And that is where working in the blending room, actually on the table that fills the juice cups, we went down after the orange season. And so the personnel director called me into his office. At that time, they had hired a Black personnel office in management. And he said, are you interested in working in the electrical department over the summer? And I looked at him and I said, yes, but let me tell you how interesting this is. Back in those days, they used to always sell little fold over match tops where when you open it up, they would have craftsmanship, electronics, HVAC. So when you open that up, those different trades would be listed. I always was fascinated with electrical.
Okay.
And so, it was just really amazing. So to follow that up, when I accepted the opportunity to work as a summer help in the electrical shop, about 2 or 3 weeks, the personnel manager came back and he asked me, he said, I'm thinking about allowing you a position in the electric shop under the conditions that you're willing to go to school. And I agreed to him that I would go to school, Wintergarten Vortec.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, when the department found out about it, the first thing the co-workers said, I was only Black. There at that time, there was never a Black had worked in the electric shop. Okay. 1976. Matter of fact, in 1976, there were very few Black electricians around. Okay. And so when I got back into the electrical shop one day, the co-workers came up to me, Europeans, and they said, Willard, you don't need to go to school. We'll teach you everything you need to know, man. And so I thought about it. I said, now the voice warned me again. If you allow them to teach you everything they think you should know, all you'll ever know is what they decide to teach you.
Right.
Go to school for yourself, learn it for yourself, because wherever you go now, it's in your head.
Right.
Okay. It's like a toolbox. You carry that toolbox in your brain everywhere you go. And so I stayed in school, and it was amazing because the setting was 277, 480, high voltage. Now I'm working as an industrial electrician as a helper in a high voltage setting. I can tell you there are a number of times.
Very dangerous, just so everybody know. That's a very dangerous environment. You say that, okay.
And I can tell you there was a number of times that things were sabotaged in place to create bodily harm or even death. And it was caught before it actually got to the extent that I got hurt or killed. I mean, even if it was wiring a motor that I had been told the power was off, just grabbing the wire and it sparked as a warning. Okay, so I'm not making this up. I'm sharing with you how when we allow ourselves to be guided and the way our help, the divine creator, is always here for us. This is just, to this day, it's just still hard to grasp. So after working and going to school, working in the day, going to school at night, pretty tough, okay? And agree, totally agree. I concur with that. That was on point. Seriously, that was seriously on point. And at the end of the day, after about a month or two, I was put on a night shift as the lead. Now I'm still in basic theory. But the one thing the Europeans always taught me, they taught me well. And sometimes when I share this with people, they're like, okay, what are you talking about? It's technical. No, they taught me to watch them. Okay, to watch them. Okay. And I learned from life itself, from my perspective, one of the major elements of life that will always guarantee you a 99.9% victory is the element of surprise. Okay, the element of surprise. And so at the end of the day, I had watched the lead electricians and the guys that knew things. I'm like a glove in their back pocket. I'm watching. And so I used to get all these little jovial jokes. Go to the stock room and tell them we need a barrel or a can of data. So I run down to the stock room. Bill said, we need a can of data. You go back and tell Bill we don't have any data. We ran out. I get back over there. Oh, we need you to go to the stock room and tell them we need a skyhook. I run down to the stock room and tell the stock people that's managing the material and stuff, I need a skyhook. Oh, the skyhook was just loaned out. Go back and tell the guys the skyhook was just loaned. And so eventually I caught on to what was going on. And so at the end of the day, it reiterated to me, you need to learn for yourself. And you need to be open to learning. And to this day, I'm still open to learning. Okay. And I moved on from there during I forget what year, there was a freeze in Central Florida and all the fruit was lost and the juice plant shut down for a while. And we were picketing and everything. And I had an Orange County deputy. I'll never forget this. Out of all the deputies that was guarding the interests, he was the one that provoked a confrontation with me. And it was very interesting. He didn't go to jail or anything like that right there. But this is in reference to something we may talk about a little later. And so at the end of the day, I left there and I went to Ross and Perina, the mushroom plant down in Zellwood. And so I worked there about 4 years. From start to end, I end up achieving a lead position over the rest of the mechanics, electrician, welders. And at that point there, I had started back to Votech, studying HVAC, welding, MIG, TIG, heliarcing, and studying the electrical trade on a continual ongoing basis. And I realized I got my plate full. I can't master all of this. And so the focus became focus on one, enhance that with other skill sets, but focus on one, learn to master a skill. That's what became important to me. I have no problem with academics. And I encourage people that love academics, get your degrees, but everybody's not college, university material.
Right.
So my advice is get your skill, okay? Acquire skill, one that you are interested in, because the odds are if you're interested, you're going to stick with it, and it may take maybe trying this a little bit and you don't like electrical, switching to HVAC, but whatever your decision is, make sure it's something that you're interested in. So my successful achievement in the electrical trade was, like I say, that little matchbox, that little flip top, electrical, learn to be an electrician. I always had an interest in that. So it wasn't that great of a challenge. Any more questions?
Yeah. So I've seen that you have a lot of specialty licenses.
Correct.
Right. So fiber optic splicing, is that right? Splicing specialist, fiber optics technician. Correct. Master electrical, we talked a little bit about that, and then journeyman electrical. Can we talk a little bit about the fiber?
Well, fiber is, let me see, this company here, the Fiber Optics Association, Inc. This is after I had started my own company. And after being in the field and teaching and training and volunteering classes in the community, the Orange County, Orlando area, I felt it was necessary because the trade in itself is constantly changing. The innovation of the trade, it's not sitting still, just like most of the things I've seen in life. If you don't do what you need to do to keep up, you're subject to get left behind.
When it's like with the fiber optic, because that's interesting, because a lot of that, when you talk about fiber optic, a lot of that have come around like maybe the last 10 years or so.
I would say 10 to 15 years. Yes.
Yeah, that's a very interesting one.
So, I'm gonna jump in on that one, because here's what, I'm moving a little bit through the timeline because I'm about to see, like, as a contractor, the fiber optics is a part of electrical, but it's a specialty. It's something that everybody can't do, and a lot of companies will find a company to do the fiber optic splicing and do, because that's just something everybody doesn't do.
Right.
So when you bring that in house, it just opens up another door or avenue of opportunities.
Right. And actually, what it does is it shifts into telecom. Okay.
And that's what
IT. I mean IT
and
data. Anyway, I forgot the acronym, but information technology. That's what I'm trying to go. Information technology, which telecom in itself is a whole nother venture.
Right.
Okay. It's in the electrical medium, but like Sam said, it's a specialty. And so most of the electrical approaches that we grew up under, Sam, you're aware of this, they're dilapidated, they're gone. And because you bring fiber in, and where we had to run so many wires to get so many circuits out, you take one fiber cable and run multi transmissions, okay? Right. And so the whole aspect of the technology requires you to stay on top of the game if you're going to be proficient.
Right.
And it gives you opportunities to venture in different directions. No,
you did. I just, like I said, I found it interesting because, being in having a background in information technology, I just so happened to see that. And I was like, I want to get a little bit more information on that. So I'm glad you were able to share that, because we have like fiber optic coming through this building for our data and our communication. So we know the importance of it.
Most definitely.
It's something new. A lot of people don't know about fiber optic because we used copper, before for telecommunication. It just became a better way for us to communicate like we're doing right now, even on Zoom.
Correct.
So it was interesting. I
Oh,
just
yeah.
kind of wanted to
Yeah,
know a little
most
bit about
definitely. Most definitely. I mean,
That voice over IP is
Right.
same. Whereas old school, when it used to take something as big as your thigh,
Mhm.
you can now take something smaller than this pen and do 100 times more.
Right.
that's correct.
Right.
That's correct. That's correct.
Faster, everything.
We old school, we used to do the coaxial with the coaxial outlet here.
Mhm.
And, we had to make sure that if we was going to double it, we brought two cables
Two of
in.
them.
Right.
But you could take I don't know what the cats are now, but 6 or 7,
That's it, yep.
and you can get umpteen as much communication in the system using
Okay.
fiber. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I did want to talk on the career. You did share a lot about that. Do you have any more questions when it pertaining to that before I go to the next part?
Well, and just, we'll get just the education part. I know is, and Willard is humble when it comes to some things, but he's been teaching an instructor, actually teaching the trade, teaching young men and women, if they choose, how to actually become a journeyman, how to get their masters, how to learn the trade. And that's something that, like he talked about 76, there was not a lot of opportunities for us in this trade. Basically, you had a shovel.
That's
The
correct.
opportunity was a shovel.
They call that the ignorance stick.
Yeah.
The ignorance spoon, really.
And that's all that
Yeah.
that was where and unless you were really smart and resilient and found a way to get around it, the opportunity wasn't there. And it's different now, but it wasn't then. It was challenging.
Agreed.
And then to find somebody who was actually going to be open into instructing, and you did a lot of instructing.
Yeah. If you want me to, I can elaborate a little bit. Okay. What really pushed me into wanting to teach is an experience with the construction growth in downtown Orlando and large construction companies coming into our area under the auspice that they were going to employ from the local community. Okay, Callahan Center, Jackson Center, they was going to allow people to acquire employment. So I saw on the news in more than one setting where the large contracting firms, which were generally white, were being given a pass under what's called a good faith initiative, because what their position is that they couldn't find qualified help. Okay. And in some cases, you don't need to be trained to use a shovel. But then when it came to the skills, they could legitimize that complaint. So I said to myself, one day I want to be able to achieve the ability to help eliminate that excuse for not hiring in the local community here. And so that's when I set out in the venture of becoming an electrical instructor. I was a member of the JOTC committee, Joint Apprenticeship Training Committee with the City of Orlando. And so what my position was then was to look at the young, the apprentices that was enrolled in Mid-Florida VOTEC at the time. It's Mid-Florida College now, and to kind of monitor their progress and whether they were staying in class and doing their classwork. And so out of nowhere, one night I just made a visit, and the chief instructor there, we started conversation, and he looked at me and said, "Would you be interested in teaching?" And at this time, I'm just a journeyman.
Right.
And I'm like, well, certainly.
But he's listening to you.
Yeah.
And he can hear the wisdom, the knowledge about it.
Right. And so I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be a vocational educator. And so, I made my best effort to make sure that I brought my A game. Okay. And so I got certified through the Florida Department of Education, and I maintained that certification for over 10 years. And while I worked with the City of Orlando in the daytime, I taught 2 nights at Mid-Florida VOTEC, and then 2 nights with my give back into the community. So I was bent on changing that excuse for not hiring from our community. So the name of the company is Technical Publishing Company. Now, I knew that in order to be legit, whatever I was teaching, it couldn't just be a thought up curriculum. So then I had to find a publisher that published training courses. And that's when I came in contact with Technical Publishing, because I had encountered them at Plymouth Citrus. Okay, they did some in-house classes there. And so I used that to be able to answer the question when asked by, the haters, what is he teaching? What makes what he's teaching certified? Blah, blah, blah. That took care of that. My side was acquiring my master's so that when they say, well, what makes him qualified? So I'm having the opportunity to nip two buds with one cut. Okay. And most of the time, that's the way we have to do it.
Right.
Because, we're never considered competent enough to do anything of ourselves. We have to go through others in order for it to be acceptable. So that's what gave me the drive for that. And so in the local recreation centers, all I requested from the managers, usually Black managers, is the assistance in the recruiting. The requirement was you have at least a GED or 12th grade education, okay? And I would allow the center manager to do the recruiting. Typically, what I would do, it was a 72-week course, okay? 2 nights a week, 12 weeks, okay? And typically, what I would do is I would try to keep my enrollment up around 20, 21, because I learned very early on, plus the experience I was acquiring at Mid-Florida, that you're going to usually end up with maybe 40% of those that sign up. I didn't want a large classroom. I want a classroom average 12 students because I lecture. You don't come to my class to read, okay? When you come to my class, you're testing. You read at home, okay? So I'm on the blackboard, so when we're teaching theory, first part of the course that I taught dealt with electrical safety, which is paramount. You have to get safety ahead of everything. And then the second part of the course dealt with tool familiarization, electrical tools, okay? And then the third part of it was theory, and the practical part was learning to wire basic devices, switches and receptacles and so forth, because I knew that the employers out there are not looking to hire people that you can't even wire a switch. You can't wire a 3-way switch. You can't wire a device, a receptacle. And so it turned out rewarding to me because I made a commitment that if I had only one student, which that was the time that it happened, I'm going to be there for that one student. And so the payback I got from that along the years is people coming back to me and thanking me, And so the part that is even more rewarding is my mindset of how we talk about it takes a village to raise a child. And I'm sternly under the concept of learning to teach. I read in a book one day where it was, I'm quoting, if a person should stay on this planet and learn all there is to know, if they fail to teach their neighbor, they've learned nothing. Okay, that resonated with me. And so looking at us as a people, on my watch, I'm going to make an effort to give back. When I say give back, it's free. And I would orientate my students and I let them know, if you have no intentions of staying in this class, don't take up that seat because we have a waiting list, And I knew that it required me to be on the blackboard because you know how when you start getting into Ohm's law and series parallel and these calculations, that makes some people scared. But I knew staying on the blackboard with them and walking them through it bringing the class along at the same pace. In my classes, if you miss 2 classes, the odds are you can't catch up. Not because I don't want you to catch up, but you're not going to be able to catch up. And in orientation, I made all that clear. And so the experience at Mid-Florida, college, Mid-Florida Tech back at the time, allowed me to bring that experience into our community. Okay. And Apopka being an oppressed area then, and in my opinion, still to this day,
Yes.
it was one of my major targets. Coming back to Apopka and teaching, which I was able to do that at the John Bridges Community Center. Okay. And so it's very rewarding. Yes, sir.
Now, that kind of leads right into, the next part when we talk about community. And I take it that when you was teaching at Mid-Florida Tech, it was more a diverse.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's
so
correct.
Bringing that back to the community, whether it was through jobs or what have you, I know we talked about before that you was able to employ.
That's correct. That's
some
correct.
People in the community.
That's correct.
Talk a little bit
yes.
about that?
Well, the beauty of being a electrical contractor and a vocational instructor and giving back is it allowed me to be able to see students that was in the class that were motivated, that would come to class, do their work, and make good grades. Now, if I had positions, which I've hired a number of people from the community, if I had positions opening, then I'm going to hire you, okay? Because I know that you're studious. I know that you have taken on a position of responsibility, and you're trying to better yourself.
Right.
I use another cliche. I'm not here to help the greedy. I'm here to help the needy. Okay, and so if you don't want to learn, don't waste my time, and I won't waste yours. Okay, and that's how I am, Sam. You've known me for years, and so it's not trying to be hard, but life in itself coming out the gate presented some serious challenges. And I know that there are those in the community that have had worse challenges than those, but I still want to reiterate, don't give up. Don't give resilience. Yeah. That's the word, resilience, and doors will open where you never even saw a door. You were looking there all your days, but you never saw the door. All of a sudden it swings wide open. Boom. Stay focused. Right. Stay focused.
When you look at our community today, and I don't know how, if you've been through Apopka, we talked about before how they have classified South Apopka and made it this one area, maybe bad area, however they want to say it, or Pine Hills, for instance, how they make it this particular area being a, menace, and when we talk about these type of things, knowing what we are today, what do you think our youth is experiencing right now? What do you think will be some of the things that are hurting our youth, not to allow them to perform like they should perform, considering the modern day society and what we're dealing with today?
I won't comment with a broad glove, but my perspective for those that have a family structure, it begins at home. Okay. And secondly, because of the design of social engineering, constantly creating distractions, obstructions, I'm going to use this as a comment, not to impose on anyone. When we allow war games to babysit our children, we're allowing someone else to program their mind. Right. Okay. Technology is very subtle. Okay. Because I did not have that structure of a family, one of my greatest appreciation is to have my wife for 45 years now, married 43 years. We have 2 adult daughters and 5 grandkids. Okay. And so I know the importance of catching and being there to the greatest of your ability in the developmental stages of the young kids. Okay. And in Apopka, if I could kind of hone back in on the question, the challenge is socially engineered environment to bring the less out of South Apopka. That being based on the historical format and background of Apopka is a migrant town. Okay, the muck, the orange grove, the nurseries, nothing wrong with going out and making an earnest living. But we need to do our very best to encourage our kids and direct our kids and be there for our kids to the best of our abilities to help them understand that at some point in life, we're going to pass this baton on to you. You don't want to go through this like your dad did, okay? And do our very best. So those of us that have made achievements, and this is your area, wherever your area is, if it's not your area, if you're willing to try to do something, we have to do more. I'll never give up on the fight of doing more, even as we talk right now. I don't think that I've achieved everything that needs to be achieved because the system consistently changes. Okay, once we come up with a strategy to deal with this, another strategy is pushed out to where, say, the city limits of Apopka in reference to South Apopka. Now, the city limits of Apopka, if I'm not mistaken, Sheila Road, it goes all the way around as part of the city limits. But 10th Street, the city limits stop at 10th Street in Apopka to this very day. So South Apopka is an area that we used to call Clarkona that I grew up in, okay? And so look at the television news and the communication about South. Everything is negative. Everything is derogatory. Now they're building a library that appears across from Phyllis Wheatley. That was a landmark. Phyllis Wheatley Elementary, high school. I attended there when it was a high school, a Black high school. Okay. But now that area has had little or no attention. And the feedback, when I investigated, the feedback that was given to me is because it didn't have the tax base. But now, I'm not that stupid. Okay, there are always federal allocations that are given to cities. Now, we see it time and time again, reallocating the funds that were supposed to go here, reallocating to do something north of 441. Okay, I have no problem with the nice homes and people living there, but in every city, it's kind of like what I used to look at. There's going to be a church street, and there's generally a railroad track that divides the community. Orlando division, the railroad track that separated the Black side of town from. How do we get beyond that? I would like to suggest collectively, not independent, but everybody, in my opinion, can contribute. But we need people that are more concerned about the community than they are about their stature and what they are doing in the cities. Okay? Because you'll get your reward by what you accomplish, not because you have a title. Okay, I believe that. Yeah. And so at the end of the day, right now, it's like, what is it? Is it a correct term? Gentrification?
Gentrification.
Gentrification. That is on the rise. Yeah. It never left. It's on the rise. So what can we do for ourselves is the question. Right. We don't need to drink the wine of a system that is trying to teach you how to be sober. You're not going to get sober by drinking the wine. And we know what the wine looks like. We know what the wine smells like. We're very, very intelligent as human beings, very intelligent. And we have to come to know that for ourselves, about ourselves, and not based on what someone else is telling us about ourselves.
And I see we kind of getting close to time. I do want to talk about this here.
Yes.
Talk about the community. One of the things that I want to bring to the forefront, the incident that occurred in the news today. We're talking about Tyre Nicholson. Is it Nicholson? Nichols. And what happened in Memphis with the 5 Black police officers. And I'll toss this around as far as perspective. And I'll let, my audience, if you want to, you can always unmute yourself and raise your hand, kind of chime in on it. But when we're talking about policing, I'm at the point, I know police was established, back during slavery, and it was for a purpose of trying to keep us in order, and it was just for that. As we have evolved and have grown, we all, you see Black police officers now. You even mentioned that you was a junior police officer.
That's correct.
So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yes.
But the idea is it a culture that we're dealing with here? Or is this, an ideal of targeting, a certain community of people? Because to see the 5 Black officers is like, okay, we ain't talking about race no more. We talking about a culture, right? What you think about that?
I think it's a culture, and I think one of the biggest misnomers is not realizing that we as Black people can be more racist against each other than another person across the street. Okay, that's a reality.
It is.
That's a reality. And so I had to train myself out of this mindset because the old concept of thinking that someone else's ice is colder than yours. You have ice. They have ice. Ice freezes at 32 degrees. Your ice is no colder than my ice. And one of the training routes I had to go is that I had to examine. One day someone told me, they said, you know what? It's really interesting that a brother can stand up and talk and have a conversation with another brother, and that other brother will question the legitimacy of it, the accuracy of it. But the guy across the street walk up and tell him the same thing. Oh, okay. Okay. I had to look at me. And guess what I saw? I saw myself having been in that situation. Okay. And so the aspect of policing, I have an interesting documentary. It's a book PDF that it speaks about the history of policing in America. And as you shared, I was a junior police in Popka when I was young. And when I started working for the city of Orlando, I was heavily recruited. But then the question came up in my head, the voice I constantly, I'm so dependent, and I'm glad that I'm dependent, said that be careful, be circumspect about what you're thinking about doing. Can you work with other law enforcement officers and stand by and watch someone that looked like you get abused or killed? And I said, no, I can't. Okay, so that affected me in that way. I'm not against good policing, where the law is applied equally. But the way my research suggests to me that policing came about was through slave patrols. Yes. And that's in writing. And so you said something about the culture. See, that's a culture.
Yeah.
And so what happens with culture from my studies is passed from one generation to the next, one generation to the next, one generation. And so at the end of the day, we're still dealing in a lot of areas with that mental concept that these are the people that we need to subjugate if it requires hurting them, killing them, because we're going to get away with it for the most part.
Right.
Okay. And so my hat goes off with respect to someone that is in law enforcement that is doing a good job. It's just like me being a contractor, you being a contractor, you're doing a good job, not just for yourself, but for your community, for people that you're going to hire and so forth. Policing should be to a great degree that you're a law enforcement officer because you're trying to bring about a positive change for the community, not jump in line with the nefarious behavior, especially when you're hurting your own and killing your own. I've seen several incidents where people intervene, one female in New York City, and she was terminated, but she hung in there and she was reinstated with back pay, okay? Black female. And then I saw another situation here where a white female, a white law enforcement officer was over the line and she stepped in and he grabbed her by the neck and started choking her. He got in trouble for it, but
I've seen that.
okay. So at the end of the day, and so what has to happen there is we have to educate our kids. And this is one book that I want to share with the audience. In the state of Florida, there's a book that's called the Handbook on Civil and Vehicular Law.
Okay.
This handbook is written by, I can't think of the author, but anyway, this book lists all the current Florida statutes when it comes to criminal and vehicular law. So one of the things that we do, and I wanted to do a class on this, not to teach our youth how to circumvent the law, but to teach them how to conduct themselves when they're approached by a law enforcement officer. How when a law enforcement officer, beckons you to, you standing right there, he reaches out and he grabs you, snatching away. That's resistance.
Right.
Okay. It escalates. And see, this is a system. They're trained to do that.
Right.
They're trained to be provocative. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, when you do the slightest little bit of resistance, but back to the young man Nichols, he wasn't resisting.
Right.
He wasn't resisting. I initially didn't want to watch that, but the voice came back to me and said, you need to watch that. I watched Mr. Floyd, okay? And I watched the other gentleman that was choked with the chokehold. I watched the young man walking in the one scenario where they just shoot him. They just start, young dude, they just start shooting him. And how many cases? The other gentleman running away and then they lie and say that he was trying to take. And the sad part about it, the black supervisor that was with the white officer that did that lied to help the white officer. Yeah, it's a culture.
See, that's the question. This conversation is a conversation that we need to have because we have to be honest. And first of all, like to Tyre Nichols and his family, we want to pray for them to have some healing.
I agree.
Because they got to go through a lot.
I agree.
And prayer is a wonderful thing. But the other part is it happens too many times and too often with us.
I agree.
Now, what happens with this situation that makes it unfortunately more unique is you got the police killing a black man, but you got black police officers.
That's correct.
Now, fortunately, they were immediately discharged. And it looks like they're going to be charged, and we go pray that they be convicted.
Okay.
So they can serve. But it doesn't erase the question or the conversation that needs to be had about policing and the purpose of the police. And I will say this for all of the police officers out there who do a great job, or the good police officers, black and white police officers.
Yeah.
I take my hat off to you because I know you have a very difficult job to do.
Yeah.
And I salute you in doing it. But that being said, we have to be honest that policing in this country, when it came to people of color, was designed to keep the slaves in check. It was designed to keep a black man in his place, which meant it was used as an enforcement tool on us.
Correct.
That system has never changed.
Right.
Culture.
The culture has not changed. The people in it we have black police chiefs, but you still working within a system that from its inception was designed to oppress people of color. We live in a country where we have to have an open conversation that, as great as America is, and America is, I would arguably say, one of the best countries on the planet, but it was founded on racism and bigotry, specifically toward Black people and people of color. That system hasn't changed. And we have to understand that just as someone can go into the military and go serve in Iraq or Afghanistan, and you say that they have PTSD, and so now you can give them a dog and you can give them training to deal with what they saw. Do understand that after 400 years of racism, bigotry, hatred, having your mother raped, your sister raped and murdered, your father hung in your face, that as a people, we dealing with some PTSD. And it causes a Black man like myself to look at a Black man like you, and I got to question your ice because it's been indoctrinated. See, when you take a child from their parent at birth and sell them off into slavery, and you teach him that he's somebody else, he has no self-worth, he has no love. So now when I see you, I got to question whether your ice is 32 degrees. It's ice. But when this fellow over here, and I'm being open, but we have to have an honest conversation. Yeah. See, when our white counterpart brings us ice, we accept the fact that it's ice. But we've been indoctrinated to question the ice coming from the Black man. Yeah. And we have to look in the mirror and say, I can't do that. Yeah. I have to be able to love myself and love my brother. And then I won't treat someone less than a human. But in a system of culture where you give someone a badge, because I will say this, if the young man they had stopped were white, he would not have been treated that way, because the system tells them that you don't do that. Yeah. But the system says it's okay to do that to someone that looks like you and me, to someone that looks like your son or mine. And when we can accept that, that's the only way we're going to be able to move forward. But to try to whitewash it and pretend the system was based on racism and bigotry. Yeah. And we still dealing with the repercussions. That's why young Tyre is dead today.
Yeah. I'd like to make a comment on the same thing, if I may, briefly. I support law enforcement when it's good law enforcement. Right. But those of people of color, specifically Blacks, understand to some great degree you're being gamed on. And I'm explaining how you're being gamed on. You're being gamed on to think that you can do the same thing that they do and have less consequences or no consequences. You're being gamed on, okay? You're actually being used as a tool in many cases to help justify that behavior, okay? You're a witness, and then they turn to you, maybe I'm just giving a hypothetical scenario. That didn't happen, right? Right, Edward? No, that didn't happen. That's not what happened, okay? But understand the system, whether it's in employment, whether it's in banking, whether it's in, you name one area across that American social structure where we don't face redlining and other areas that no matter how much money we got, I mean, the gentleman up there in Washington lost his keys or left his keys in the house, you finna go to jail because you ain't supposed to be in this house, okay? You're being gamed on. And you will gain much more by standing up for what you agreed to do based on the laws of the Constitution and what is in your job description that you know you're supposed to be doing. But it troubles me because it almost looked like it's starting to take the image of a gang, a blue gang. Okay? And that's scary.
It is. when you look at what's taking place right now, the idea behind policing, the standard would be, you ask, you tell, and then you make. It don't seem like that happened here.
Yeah.
They didn't ask him to comply to anything. They didn't tell him that he was not complying to whatever it is. And they just went through the process of initiating force, which was the third process of that.
Street justice.
Yeah. And I guess the other side of this, and when I was just kind of thinking about it, when you take an action like they did against the polices, you create a precedent. So when you start to create that now, which is good, because you want to set a precedent for certain things like this. And so when it happens again, the same consequences goes to any other police officers. We look at it from a standpoint of, we know they're probably pushing this in because they're Black police officers and they make it easier for them to do it.
Yeah.
But it's still going to affect the whole operation.
And I would like to comment.
I pray that they do.
Yeah, I would like to comment also that I was looking to see from what I'm not saying it's not out there. I was looking to see how many political pundits of high positions across the aisle was going to come forward. This is the United States of America. Was going to come across the aisle and say, that's wrong. Rubio, Florida, I didn't see Rubio say that was wrong. Rick Scott, I didn't see Rick Scott say that was wrong. DeSantis, I ain't heard DeSantis say that was wrong. Okay, so these are the real conditions. Okay.
Exactly.
These are the real conditions. So you can make your self think what you want, but dealing with reality is always going to be your best out. Try not to make a pig out of a squirrel.
And I have to be a cynic. If we pray that it don't happen, but we know in this country it will. Because usually when white officers do this to Black youth, they get a paid vacation and they get found not guilty. Now, there's been a few instances recently, like in a case of Ahmaud Arbery, where they were found guilty, but they were retired. This that blue club that you was talking about.
Oh yeah. I'm start referencing them as a game.
The blue gang. Thank you. The blue gang. See, for the good police officers, yes. But as a man of color, there are white officers who do that to Black men, especially our Black youth, and they know they can get a pass. Now, let's hope this set the precedent that they won't get a pass. But generally, they get paid leave. And then they go to court and get found not guilty. That is the normal outcome. And we're tired of that.
Yeah.
We really see, we have to come together and begin this dialogue and how to self-police ourselves. Because I always say, and I say it on this show, when we get stopped, they're not going to ask you if you're Afro spiritualist. They're not going to ask me if I'm a Hebrew. They're not going to ask you if you're a Muslim.
Yeah.
You're just Black.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the question that need to be addressed.
Yeah. I need to make a comment. When I used the term earlier in the analogy of changing a pig to a squirrel, it's not an intent to be derogatory towards any police officer. Okay. It's just that that's what came to my mind. And it was very close to the old saying that you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still going to be a pig. You can put
this live talk. We keep it live and we keep it rolling.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I'm not here to be a part of the problem. I'm here to try to be a part of the solution. That's what I would love to know, that every day that I wake up, and I would say this to Black law enforcement officers, you can make a difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you choose, you can make a difference. Is your job more important to you than standing up for what is right? And I would say this very delicately. The next incident can be your own son or your own daughter.
Right.
Think about that.
Consider it.
Think about it.
Be you.
Yeah, it could be you. I mean,
it's very, very important that we understand, what we stand at as a people, in the mix of everything that's going on around us. And we have to connect to one another, because if we don't, we'll be isolated.
Most definitely.
And the same incidents will occur and continue to occur until, like what Samuel's saying, until we begin to take over our community and police our own community.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it starts with economics. Economics has been the issue behind it all. You know,
from day one.
Everything that we see are symptoms of that.
Yeah.
You know, not having the right resources and et cetera.
Yeah.
You know, but we are 28 minutes after.
One more comment. And based on the economics. And we know economics is the prime target. Why? Oklahoma, Ocoee, Rosewood, city after city that they don't even talk about.
Right.
Okay. Each time we try to grab ourselves by the bootstraps and become self-sufficient, for some reason, there are those that have found it necessary to tear it up and to kill whoever gets in the way of them tearing it up. But resilience. Let's go back to this term, resilience. We can do it.
Yes.
I'm convinced. I'm not just talking. We can do it. And at every level, law enforcement, whatever your profession is, do it to the best of your ability, not just for yourself, but for those that you're trying to help. Whether it's your children, your grandchildren, your niece, your nephew. I just wanted to make that comment.
Indeed. All right. Well, we're at that time. We won't be going to any commercial break. We'll get ready to put some announcements. Thank you again for tuning into Live Talk. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Live Talk Orlando. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You want to join the show? Email us at livetalkorl@gmail.com. You can also visit our website at www.livetalkorl.com. You can also follow the host on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Author Jeremiah. Make sure to visit the website jeremiahisrael.com and pick up your copy of The Spiritual Significance of a Name. All right, we'll get ready to close out. We'll start with you, Mr. Willard. Hey, we thank you for being on the show. I'll let you go ahead and close out first.
Okay, yes. And I'm grateful to have had the opportunity, and hopefully there'll be future opportunities in whatever area I can contribute, as far as helping out. And I would love to see us go forward in creating educational environments within our community. Academics has its role, but education is how we learn from within, from experience, from life experiences. So again, I won't belong the opportunity to close out by saying again, I thank you all very much.
Yes, sir, indeed.
Yeah, again, and of course, my brother, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah. And we will look forward to bringing you back in the future. As long as you don't mind, we can reschedule you to come back so
Sure.
we can have another lively conversation. It was a wonderful show. It's all about being able to educate and bring things back to our community, because the only ones who can truly restore our community is us. And we believe in networking together to make real differences here at Live Talk.
Indeed. And again, I thank you for coming on to the show.
You're quite welcome.
We want to get into the 12 major.
Yeah.
we were talking about the 12 major tests of life.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to talk about that. So we're going to have to have you. We're going to have to have you.
Yeah, most definitely.
But thank you. I thank everyone that viewed it, that was on today and that's still viewing on Facebook. And from your hosts, Peace and Prosperity, and from Live Talk, we out. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Are you ready?
For live.
Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Are you ready?
This live.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Are you ready?
Live talk.
For the word of the day, the knowledge and the wisdom will increase your faith. Are you ready for live talk?
Yeah.
Because it's about time to set it on. Are you ready?
Let's go.
For the word of the day, the knowledge and the wisdom will increase your faith. Are you ready for live talk?
Yeah.
Because it's about time to set it off.
Live talk. This live talk. Live talk. Living in vital energy. The universal language spirituality. Living in vital energy. The universal language spirituality. We're going all the way live with it. With live talk, increase your mentality, put away carnality, and increase your spirituality. Let's
Are you
go.
ready?
Live talk.
Are you ready?
This live talk.
Are you ready?
Live talk.
Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Are you ready?
Live talk.
For the word of the day, the knowledge and the wisdom will increase your faith. Are you ready for live talk? Because it's about time to set it off.